Welcome to the Williamsburg address. I'm I'm Allison Sakamora. We haven't taped in a while. I don't remember who I am. And this is Kayla Jones, my co-host. And we're
Yes.
so excited for today's episode.
Yes, today we have Row Fence with Jacob Weatherford, and we are going to be talking about all things fencing with a house. So we're going to go on into it. So, Jacob, what's the craziest or most memorable project you have done?
So the craziest or most memorable project that I've done so far actually was here at Row Fence. I've been serving in a role within a fence company at two separate companies. So when I first started, the owner, Mike Rowe, told me, hey, I'm going to take you out to a farm fence estimate for a
Mm,
horse owner. And then we ended up riding together, and the whole ride he's telling me how picky in particular a horse owner is and just, hey, watch out. So
wow.
I was already nervous on the front end. And when we got out there, he was completely engaged with the customer, and we walked the job. And while he was talking, I wanted to make sure I had plenty of time to get everything right. So I took my measuring wheel and measured everything we're talking about while they're talking. That
Ooh.
way, before we left, I could make sure I had time to ask, is this right? And when we got back, Mike he guided me the whole way, guaranteeing that I made sure I had my material list correct. We had the measurements correct, location correct. And, at the end of it, I was nervous the whole time. But
Mhm.
from the moment we started the job, I started seeing things coming together, and I was worried, are we missing parts? Did I not order this? Did I screw up? I just started the job. This was within maybe 2 weeks of me starting the job.
Wow.
But, it ended up being a beautiful job that we did, and the customer is very happy. And actually, that customer kind of passed over Mike, and she's working directly with me now. And, she is a very happy person. And, I'm excited for the next one and a little less nervous this time.
Yeah, there you go.
That would be the best thing, because I was worried, like, this is for a big animal. And,
Mm,
now I've seen the animal. So thank God the fence worked out. But it
How
looked
yeah.
big?
great. I've never really messed with farm fencing now, but anytime a customer calls looking for a farm estimate, I'm ready. So
Yeah.
How
yeah.
big was that property when you were hand rolling it out?
It was about 2,000 feet total worth of
Oh my
fencing
goodness.
that we got. And with an animal that size, it has to be more than just a farm fence. If it's not installed properly, the horse could get hurt, owner could get hurt, or the horse could get out and completely just kind of disappear and walk down the street. And, that's a big animal to try to get back in the yard.
Wow. Now with the
Yeah.
horse, like what kind of product do you use with the horse? Horse fencing.
It all depends, but in this particular case, we use big wooden round posts in which we set in concrete, and there's actually a no climb wire that you can install post to post.
Oh,
And between bracing, and we added a strand of electrical fence in there too, so it's actually
Okay.
energized partially as well. There's a lot of components that go into it. That's why I was intimidated, but hey, I got it right,
yeah,
so we're
you got
going
it
to
right.
miss it.
That's right.
To this day, though, both horses are still in the fence.
Hey,
That's
that's a
Yeah.
win. That's a
you get
win.
Yeah.
an A plus score.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us more about Row Fence. Who is the company, everything about it, the bio, more about you, how you got
Okay.
into it, everything like that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So myself, I come from a generational line of sheet metal fabrication workers. So I'm handy with my hands. I've built stuff using equipment out of metal. And up until about 4 years ago now, I had an opportunity to kind of venture out on my own and partner up with the owner of another fence company, which of course I would never say the name. But the opportunity that I had there was they wanted to expand into a fabrication division where same equipment that I'm used to running, and essentially I wouldn't have part ownership, but I would have a critical role there. And then when I got there, things didn't really
Yeah,
fall
pan out.
into place like I
Mhm.
Right.
had anticipated. So I kind of was stuck more so onto the fence side of what he brought me in for. Cause I mean, you hired me, you have to get me to do something.
Right.
And he was not to shame anybody, but it wasn't really a good teacher. So I was kind of thrown into the fire. And then I reached a point where I was like, hey, am I going to go back to fabrication or manufacturing or sales? Because I have
Mhm.
a vast variety of
Yeah.
experience that I can kind of share in a long novel. But long story short, in my considerations of whether I should leave the fence industry or not, I was calling around and Row Fence, Addison Rowe is the daughter. She actually answered the phone and she takes credit for being the one to bring me on because she told her
There you
daddy to
go.
call me back.
Ah, there you
He and I
go.
had a conversation, and it wasn't even a conversation where I was in an immediate need for a job. I was
Mhm.
completely honest with him where I came from, what I'm doing. And then, a couple months down the road, he called me and I said, man, I'm completely interested. And I'm glad I took that on. I've had a great teacher. And 1 year since I've started, Mike is now semi retired. So he's more of
Ah,
a consultant for us all.
okay.
We
Nice.
asked him for permission, but he completely trusts, my decision making, my vision. He knows I want the best for the company, and now I'm going to get us where we need to go. As far as Row Fence, he is the third generation. So his father owned Row Fence, and grandfather owned Row Fence as well. And to best of my knowledge, both of them actually sold their versions of Row Fence. So
Wow.
this third generation wasn't something that was necessarily hand given to him ready to
Mhm.
go. Mike's first several years were out there installing himself. Then he got himself a helper. So it was two people on the job. Then he was fortunate enough to have a couple guys start installing for him. And since then, we've been able to grow, bring on new people. There are also other members of the Rowe family that are more than active within the company. I'm non-family, but they treat me as if I've been family the whole
And
time.
that's all that
Aw.
matters. Yep,
Um,
Yeah.
that's the part that
yep.
matters.
So, my knowledge of the fence industry continues to grow every day. I'm kind of in a position where I could take a risk. I can
Mhm.
take time to get on a podcast to get our exposure out there, talk about what matters most. And since I've been here, we've revised our logo here. We got a new logo, a new website. So we're working on a lot of different things and we're excited to share with you all and customers moving forward. So that's kind of just a short snippet, but
Yeah.
like I said, if we had time to write a novel here, Harry Potter ain't got nothing on me.
Well, we are excited to have you. And I know we talked about Row is ROWE fencing,
ROW.
right?
Yep.
So
Yes,
Nope, not
ma'am.
love that.
fencing, just
Yep.
fence.
Fence,
Yeah.
row,
Yep.
Not
fence.
row fencing. So if we do business together, you write a check, row fence, not row fencing.
So, what is something most people are surprised to learn about fencing?
I think most people would be surprised about the number of options that are out there. They'll
Mm,
say, "Hey, I just want a wood fence," or but when you're speaking to us, we're gonna say, "What kind of wood fence?" And we can break down wood, aluminum, vinyl, chain link into several different options. A fence can be completely customizable to you if you really wanted it. No one person could have the same fence essentially. And
hmm,
it's really like that anyways because every layout is different and you have to kind of adapt to that. And I think another thing would be the number of options and companies you have to choose from. You have big companies who are franchises. You have companies like us, a dime and a dozen. We're three generations. You don't have that much more. And then you have kind of the handyman services who are kind of
mhm.
lower scale, do it yourself kind of guys out there. So there's a ton of options. And that's why it's more important as a customer to be vigilant and ask the right questions.
Makes sense. What kind of
Excellent.
trends are you seeing right now in fencing design?
As far as fencing design, the more trends that I see would be probably HOA neighborhoods. The new
Yeah,
built
makes sense.
communities, 9 times out of 10, have HOA require Kayla's yours did,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did.
vinyl and aluminum are probably your most common HOA just because wood is something that doesn't maintain that same look over time,
Right.
Mhm.
You're
and they
right.
probably don't want the variations and differences of look within those neighborhoods. So typically they'll throw some requirements on you. A lot of times it's wood or aluminum or vinyl, but there are some HOA neighborhoods that are more than okay with wood fencing.
Yeah. Makes sense, yeah. We'll dive more into the HOA fencing in a bit
Okay, yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. See, as the expert, what are the most common reasons homeowners decide to install a fence that you
Okay.
usually see?
Absolutely, and I love that question because honestly, it highlights the reason why I decided to stay in fence.
Mhm,
Because when you go out there and talk to a homeowner, what they're talking to you about is their children, their pets, their property, something that they've paid for themselves. It's not like selling, a product to somebody where it's not as personal. This is personal to them. We're protecting their children, we're keeping their pets in the yard. I had an estimate yesterday where the customer has a new dog who is an escape artist, and we got to get creative on how to keep him in the yard,
Right.
and that was awesome. And, whenever I get into those situations, I put myself in their shoes and we talk
mhm,
about it as if it was my investment because I share the passion for that. So, homeowners get fences for a ton of reasons, or you could have that neighbor that you just cannot stand and you want to
true.
put a big privacy fence there. We are there for that too.
Now, what did you do with the dog situation? Have you all I know you said it was just yesterday, but have
Um,
you all came up with something, like an
yeah, so she
idea?
actually had a ramp. So for her, she wants to be as cost effective as she can. And one
Mhm,
of those options, she is an elderly woman, so wood isn't really an ideal thing for her due to the maintenance over time.
mhm.
But for her, we quoted her a good old chain link option. She
Ah,
has not moved forward yet, but we are working on it.
got it.
Good. Do you
Got
ever
it, got
find that people contact you? What if the dog is digging kind of under the fence? Is there barriers that can be put there in order, as they start to dig, there is nowhere for them to go?
Okay. That is a good for an HOA neighborhood. Let's say a customer has to get an aluminum fence. Well, the aluminum fence has picket space in and potentially dig under. Well, there's a welded wire option. It's almost like a garden fence that you can zip tie to the fence. And in some cases, we can even dig a trench line in front of the fence line and kind of bury that wire a little bit
Oh.
to kind of create a anti-dig barrier. But, just like a lock to keep honest only keep honest people out, a fence is only keep, a dog who's okay, we're not gonna be able to dig 2 feet deep, so if he's a digger and he's willing to go deeper than we are, we're in trouble. So,
it. Yep, that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
if he's going that deep, you might wanna consider the dog might be better off with somebody else.
That's
Yeah,
true. That's
might be
true.
able
Yeah,
to
I say
rent 'em
that, but I'll
out,
probably keep the
give him
dog.
a little job, he can help dig something.
Yeah.
What type of fencing do you find lasts the longest in our climate? Obviously, on the peninsula, we have very varying weather. Yesterday it was 85. Today it's 33, and we're supposed to be getting snow and rain. By the way, the morning started out at 72 degrees, walking in short sleeves, and I now have a winter coat on. So
Oh,
Mhm,
weather
I'm in the
changes
same
so
boat. I was
frequently.
fronting the logo all day, and then now I'm cuddled up, ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
mhm.
So yeah, what's the best type of fence for the climate, do you think?
Okay. So, as far as longevity of the material itself, vinyl and aluminum are great options. They're going to hold that look for 30 plus years, 50 to more. They're
Wow.
going to have minimum maintenance for the vinyl. Just a little bit of soap and pressure washing over time can really make those last. Wood can last a lot longer than you think it can. The
Mm,
only thing is that a lot of customers may not understand with wood being a natural resource if you don't do something to protect it, over time, it is going to deteriorate no matter how good the materials are on the
Right.
front end. We use high quality pressure treated pine for our installs, majority of them. And, I always encourage our customers, give it a couple of months for it to finish curing out in field and then put a stain on it, and that difference could be 10, 15, maybe even more years difference
Wow.
you know, non-treated wood fence, if you just let it go, 10 years down the road, I mean, you could be in a situation based on the climate and the condition
mhm.
where you have rotten posts and you need repairs or even replacement at that point. And that's another thing where it comes down to asking the right questions. You want to see what kind of materials are being used on the front end because if they're not doing the work on the front end, it's going to create those problems sooner than later.
Right.
Do you all do Trex as a fencing type?
Yes, so we do composite. A lot of that is more so on our commercial side of things, but it
Okay.
can be a residential option for a customer 100%. Our most recent installs that we've been doing with composite Trex boards are
Mhm.
for like dumpster enclosures, or we're actually doing some work, at Maymont Park. So
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
we're doing plain fence that has composite fence in there.
nice.
Absolutely. We're doing all the animal enclosures and we're on a tight deadline there too. So this summer, that's our work firsthand.
Nice.
Wow. I love Maymont Park and I love all the different animal enclosures. So I'm definitely going to go out this summer and check out your work
Yeah.
firsthand with
Absolutely.
all of those animals. We know that you are the pro from day one going to
Hey,
do horses.
when you go to Maymont and that bear, that coyote, and that bobcat, and you're saying, "Oh, you're so cute, you're so cute." The fact that they can't get out and get you, that's on us.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, and for people that don't know, Maymont is up in Richmond. So, you
Yep,
need a
correct.
day trip, a nice day trip to go to and check out their fence. That
absolutely.
over the summer, that would be a nice day trip to explore.
Absolutely. Lots
Yeah.
of hills. So if you don't like walking, I'd
There's
bring a
lots of
bike.
hills and paved paths, and there's garden areas. You can pack a lunch. You can read a book out there. You can lay on the lawn. They have illumination events at Christmas time as well, which are absolutely beautiful. There is a house that just was remodeled that is now open. So I think the land used to be privately owned and they've donated it and it's being maintained. They do a big Easter egg hunt. I know it is absolutely stunning. Highly recommend if you haven't been, definitely add it to your list. And when will your fencing be completed? So if they're wanting to go and actually look at your work.
So I believe by the end of April, our part will be done. I'm not
Okay.
sure what their timeline is because, of course, they have a ton other things to do. One
Mhm.
good thing is on commercial projects like that, fencing typically is one of the last components needed. So the
Yeah.
fact that we're out there tells us where they're almost done.
Mhm.
Good, good.
Good. So, what is one of the biggest mistakes people usually or tend to make when they're choosing a type of fence?
I think the number one mistake is probably maybe rushing a decision or not asking the right questions. Because, like I
Mhm.
said, there's a ton of options out there. And when I meet with the customer, I encourage them to get other estimates because there's multiple options out there. And my goal at the end of the day, when I meet a customer and even my other salesmen here at the office, our goal is to give the customer all the information they need to make a comfortable and confident decision at the end of the day. Doesn't matter if it's with us or a competitor or we maybe talked them out of getting a fence at all. The fact that they
Mhm.
were happy with the decision they made at the end is what's important most. When I first got into sales, I was warned about the sleazy car salesman. You're going to have that guy
Mhm.
out there that tells you what you want to hear. You're going to tell him what your concerns are, and he's going to tell you you have nothing to worry about. If you share a concern with us, if we think it's a legitimate concern, we're going to talk to you about it. And, we're going to speak about the pros and cons of anything. It doesn't matter if it's us. And we're not always going to be the cheapest price.
Yeah.
We offer high quality service. And, there's one thing that we do that not many other companies do. We put our work first. So we don't require a deposit in most cases to do the work. We're able to, those HOA or those new homeowners where they're waiting for closing, if we give them a quote, they can move forward with us and get on the schedule without putting any money down.
Wow.
We're not going to hound you for 50% deposit before you can get
Mhm.
on the schedule, and everybody thinks that, it can be an accounts receivable nightmare. But if you do the job right, you care about your customers, and you treat them like their family, and at the end of the day, you make sure they're happy with the work you're done, it's no problem. Hey, we installed Kayla's fence and she paid the bill. And we did a repair for Mr. Jones.
Yes, you did. Yes, we have been using you all. Yes, and I know April Miller in our office and Takora Santos in our office. They have used you all as
Yep.
well, and
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
it's always a
That's
good
great.
experience and great
Yep.
reviews all around.
How long
Right.
does the typical fence installation take from start to finish?
And let me
Okay.
add, like, can you say, like, for a townhome and then, like, a single family home too, just to give
Okay.
that variation?
Yeah, so most homes, a townhome, that would take roughly a half day to a whole day. When a single family home where it's larger layouts, we could be 1 to 2 days. For instance, it depends on if we're how we're setting the post, the layout. We're fully transparent with the customer as far as what our time frame expectations are, but we always allow a little time for that what if moment. Even for the large projects that may take some significant time just because of the scale of them, we have a scheduled timeline that we follow. So there's never large gaps. And this is a big warning too for some companies that may be out there where they start a job and then they're off the job for several weeks before they get back on. Unless it's something that a contractor or customer is specifically requesting to do, when we start a job, we stay on it. So most installs from single family townhomes, whatever it may be, I would say 1 day, 2 days tops. For the larger ones, up to 3 to 4 days and then some. But in those cases, those jobs require a lot more planning. So, the
Mhm.
customer and us know what kind of timeline we're facing.
Got it. And for that horse one that you were talking about, how long did that one take?
That one took 3 days and that was
Okay.
Wow.
2,000 feet. Yep.
Wow. And
Yep.
Good.
does the homeowner need to be on the property while you're installing, or can they go to work or do other things and come back while you're working? What's your preference?
Okay, absolutely. So, one thing that we do to offer our customers is when they agree to do an estimate with us, we actually offer them the opportunity to have us back out there once more ahead of install to walk the property, where we'll paint, we'll mark the corners, gate location, which way the pickets were facing. We'll lock in all that detail, and then we'll actually transcribe that for a work order for our guys to use out there in the field. Some customers love to be home, and in those cases, we'll schedule, for install to happen on a day that they're going to be home, of course, and they like to kind of sit out there, drink lemonade, and watch the guys work, which is great, you know. But typically, if you are a homeowner that once we know what we need to do, and we do that pre-install walkthrough, you do not have to be home because we're going to be there to communicate with you when the job is done.
Yeah.
Let
I
me ask
wasn't
you
home. I say, "Yeah, y'all do it. I'll see when I
Yeah.
get home." Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. You just mentioned about which direction the pickets go. So,
Mhm,
we'll go and on a wood fence, sometimes the pickets are on the outside. So your neighbor gets to see the pretty side, which is all the
mhm.
pickets, and you kind of get to see the underside, I would say.
Mhm.
What do you and I most fences are like that where you're seeing the underside to me, you're not seeing the pretty side. Is there a reason for that direction, or people just don't know they can put the prettier picket side towards them?
That can be something that if it's not talked about on the front end, a crew can easily assume that the pickets are going to go on the outside. One good thing about when you work with us is we ask all the right questions. The reason you would want the pickets on the inside is it's the pretty side. So most of my privacy installs that I've done recently, the front faces the street. So you'll have your front side of the fence with the pickets out, and then the sides and the rear will do pickets in. That way they can enjoy the pretty look of their fence. Now, a lot of times what you may see, the reason you may see that is if one customer goes right up to their property boundary, the neighbor just has to do an extension off of that. So maybe they have the runners on their side, but they didn't have to pay for that side of the
Right,
fence. I don't think they probably mind. That's the thing when you have a long stretch of houses,
right,
9 times out of 10, you're gonna be connecting fence lines, and, one thing about it, you never want to let a company physically attach your fence to your neighbor's fence. You always wanna set a post there, keep there being separation there. That way, your property is yours and theirs is theirs.
And
Yep.
does that obstruct the fence if they were to connect it? I remember something about any weight or anything, or is that not a
No, it wouldn't be necessarily an obstruction as much as it would be an issue if, the homeowner doesn't approve that, because if
right.
a crew does that, unless a homeowner gets physical permission from their neighbor for us to physically attach, then that would be an issue. But Also, HOA will not allow,
Mm,
Right.
they act one of the things they wanna make sure you're not physically attaching to your neighbor's fence.
yeah,
Right.
makes sense. Yeah. What should homeowners check before installing a fence when it comes to the property line? Since we're on the property line, is a survey required? What do you all look at with that?
So a survey is always recommended if you have any questions about your property boundaries because we do not we're not surveyors, so we cannot sit there and say, hey, your property line's here or here. Now, if you have your plat that shows your house on there and in the distance, we can get us pretty close. But even at the end of the day, if you're worried about whether there's some margin of error there, we definitely will recommend a survey. And we have in the past recommendations of people that we use, and in those cases if you ask us we can refer you to somebody, but property boundaries is the biggest thing to know, and the only thing that you can have short of a survey is your plat. And if that gives you enough information,
Mhm.
because you can always back in a little bit off of your property line to make
Right.
sure you're inside your property. That's easy to do, but if you're running with tight windows and you're not sure and your property goes off at a crazy angle, get it surveyed because they'll put stakes and ribbons in there and they'll
Mm.
light it up like the 4th of July and it'll make it all easy for all of it. Yeah.
Make it easier for everyone. That's what
Yeah,
everybody likes to
absolutely.
hear. Yes, and then within a HOA, do you recommend for them to get approval first, or what do you usually do with that aspect when you have an HOA, you have certain fence types, they may not necessarily know which fence type they need to have within the HOA,
Yeah.
but you all to not install maybe before they have that, or how do
Mhm.
you all deal with that?
Okay, absolutely. So, one thing, if you know that you are in a neighborhood and your home requires HOA approval to get a fence, typically they'll give you some sort of documentation telling you what those requirements are. And that is something that if you have at the day of the estimate that we can certainly go over. The estimates that we provide to you will actually have a drawing of your layout. So if you have a copy of your plat that you could email to your salesman, we'll actually draw your layout right on your gate location, and you'll be able to submit that right to your HOA as well as a photo and details regarding the materials to be used. So
Nice.
we typically within the estimate give all the front end information that a customer can then take, and whoever the HOA contact is, they can submit for approval and have all the information ready that they have. So that way, because some HOAs only meet monthly. So if
Right.
we give all the information up front, that way, maybe at that next monthly meeting, they don't have a follow up question. And because we didn't do our due diligence, we cost the customer another month. But always get approval from your HOA before installing.
Yep.
Now, one thing I will highlight is
Mhm.
when you tell us you got approval, that's what we base it off of. So if you're in a HOA neighborhood that maybe the HOA is aged down and the HOA committee is no more, you tell us you got your approval, we know the difference. Just know we go by the customer, communicating with the customer. We'll answer
Mhm.
questions on your behalf if the HOA has it, but we're the customer's advocate. We're not here to join the fight against the HOA. Yep.
Are there fences that work better for privacy reasons versus decoration?
Yes. So privacy, you typically come in like 6 foot. You can get 4 foot privacy, but majority of people will be able to see over the 4 foot fence. So
Right.
6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot are always options. But you just want to make sure if you go to one of those higher options that your county will allow that. And when it comes to like permits and building codes and stuff like that, we can do some research on our end, but we do ask the customer to kind of know ahead of time what their requirements are. And then that way we can have all the information to provide. In most cases, you're allowed privacy coming up to the front corner of the home. And then past that, you have to reduce to a 4 foot in most cases. But wood and vinyl are your biggest privacy options. And then chain link for commercial sites, the privacy options there are like privacy slat inserts where they kind of just slide it into the chain link
Right.
fence.
What
Okay.
is the tallest is 8 feet the tallest it can go?
No,
That you know?
You can go taller than that. You can go 12. It kinda just all depends on building the fence. I've seen a 12-foot tall fence, but, as you increase height, the way it's built is different as well.
Yeah.
So, for
Uh-huh.
instance, for a vinyl fence that is 6 foot tall, your post centers are from 8 feet to 8 feet, and it's just a straight
Okay.
vinyl look. But let's
Right.
say you want to do 8-foot vinyl. Well, your post centers are gonna go to 6 foot, and you're actually gonna have a rail in the center because you wanna factor wind and all of this into play as well.
Mm,
There's a lot to think about when you have a solid fence there that wind is kinda just gonna bounce off of
Right.
permanently.
yeah, makes sense. Now, I guess for, let's say, what's the best fence type that you would say for dogs?
For
Um, uh,
dogs.
for dogs, let's say for a smaller dog and then for a larger dog. I mean, I don't
Okay.
think most people are gonna try to get 12-foot fences for the dogs, but they could.
No. And, privacy fence, not
Mhm,
everybody wants to put up the money for a privacy fence, and it could
mhm,
be just about the dog, but they don't wanna block the view of the woods behind their
right.
house.
True,
In
yeah.
those cases, a 3 board with wire fence is a cost-effective option. You can do that in a 4 foot, 5 foot, even 6 foot tall. There's
Mhm,
so like I said, there's so many options in height. It's really all about what the customer tells us they want, and we can figure out if it's possible to make that happen in a high quality workmanship way, not just, getting it done just to say we got it done and send you a bill. And that's not what it's all
mhm.
about. But just for keeping the dog in, if privacy isn't an option, even a chain link fence would do great. You do have a lot of different options, but chain link or wood farm style 3 board with wire are two options that will kind of not hurt so much on the wallet, but add you that protection for your dog.
Yeah,
If someone wanted a great option, but they're also concerned about security of their property, is there a fence type that matches best for that to keep people in, not allow people to get in? Is there a better fence?
Absolutely. So even the fence styles that I just talked about for keeping the dog in, those are great security options as well, because you can always factor in your gates there. And the hardware that we use, you will have the ability to lock your gates. And, you don't, it's not like we'll build a fence and people, no matter what, will be able to get in and out. You'll be able to lock and have a sense of security no matter which option you go with.
okay.
Great.
So, do you have a with that, since we're talking about keeping people out and things out, what about around the pool? What do you usually suggest to put around the pool just to make sure young children can't get in and making
Absolutely.
it secure?
Absolutely. So when you are installing around a pool or in the area, there's actually a whole set of requirements that we are required to meet as a contractor. The fence has to be a certain height. Vinyl, aluminum is probably the most popular option for around a pool and a vinyl privacy is one as well. But one of the things that has to be in consideration when you're doing a pool fence is your gates have to swing outward and they have to actually be self-closing. So if somebody opens the gate to enter the pool, the gate will automatically close behind them. And then the way that we use in certain type of hardware that we have to use, and it's a certain type of height that we have to set the hardware on the gate. So it's mostly how it's built. And you can even install a wood fence around a pool if you wanted to. It's just the certain requirements of height, hardware, gates that we have to consider when installing a fence. And one thing about it, that is a pool code requirement.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah. Hmm.
What should you check before hiring a fencing company? What do you recommend somebody looks at? And how would you avoid getting a bad installation? Obviously, doing your research, but are there things that you would recommend background wise to verify?
I
Yeah.
would ask for photos of materials, installs in the style that you're looking for. I would see if the company has a website. I think from a customer to customer, you know, relying on their word, reviews are a big thing. So we kind of
Mhm.
push for Google reviews big here. Those are the big things there. that I would kind of keep an eye out for when you're looking for it, and just ask the questions about warranty because we offer workmanship warranty. How does the billing work? You know, the time to ask those questions is before you make the decision and pay anybody anything. And if you can get with somebody like us who's willing to put in all the work before you even have to pay anything, I think those are best case scenarios, but not everybody works like that.
Yeah.
And do you find with that that most of the time what you're estimating the cost to be, that you're pretty close to that budget or what's expected?
Yeah, so when we provide an estimate, technically the estimate is only good for 5 days. So if a customer, we provide them with an estimate for wood, we hold wood here in stock. So 9 times out of 10, the material pricing doesn't fluctuate that much. We're not going to add more costs for labor or anything like that on a customer. It's mostly just verifying material. So unless
Okay,
we've hit something like, for instance, steel products have recently skyrocketed.
Mhm.
Those cases, even customers a week ago, we have to verify their pricing because materials is pretty volatile right now as far as fluctuating in price.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Are permits required for fencing?
So some counties and cities do require permits, and that's just where we ask the customer to be aware of this on the front end and to kind of use us, say, hey, this is my requirements that I have to meet, and just request the information that's needed from us. Some companies will say, hey, we handle the permits and all of this, which is great to try to win a job from somebody. But at the end of the day, years down the road, if because of what they did becomes an issue, that comes
Mhm.
on the homeowner. So
Yeah.
no matter what, the
Right.
homeowner should do their research to know what is required in the area that they're living in. We're more than happy to help. And that includes HOA. We don't know if you require HOA until you
Mhm.
tell us. Now, there are neighborhoods that we've installed several customers within the same neighborhood. So we know in those cases that, hey, this is a HOA neighborhood. But still, don't even rely on that. Just know the requirements of
Right.
your home before you hire somebody because a fence is a big investment and you don't want it to come back to bite you. It's going to last 30 years. You want to get the best out of
Yeah,
it. You don't
exactly.
want to have to move it 6 months down the road because somebody told you you're good to go and you were not.
Right.
And then with the fencing, how do you tell if it needs to be repaired or a full replacement?
Okay. So obviously with aluminum and vinyl and chain link options, you're gonna see bent, broken pieces within the fence. So those options for the most part will always be repairs unless they're in such bad shape or completely destroyed because they're a material that's not gonna deteriorate over time. Link will reach a point where it really needs to be replaced, but so will aluminum and vinyl, but after a longer period of time. For wood, if it's broken pickets, broken 2x4s, stuff like that, or even some couple posts,
Mhm.
those are replacement. But if you're looking within your layout and majority of your posts are rotten and you can kind of shake the fence and it's a big wave, it's time. We don't have to do much to knock it down, but it's time. Some
Yeah.
people do it. Some people I'm afraid to touch it because it'll fall over and they'll blame me for knocking down their 30-year-old fence. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
If you could give homeowners one piece of fence advice, what would it be?
If I could give homeowners one piece of fence advice, I would think about the long run up front. So when you're considering privacy or any other option, a fence is built to last a long time. So if you want to save a little money, but you want your so let's say, for example, if a customer wants to be as cost effective as they possibly can, well, wood fence would be the most cost effective right now,
Right.
but over time, staining is every 2 to 3 years, really. You're going to spend a lot more money protecting your wood fence if you want the most bang for your buck rather than spending a certain percentage more for an aluminum or a vinyl fence that's going to last a long time without you doing anything, really.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That does make sense.
What's your personal favorite type of fence and why?
My personal favorite type of fence, I haven't come across it yet because it would be my own fence. But I would say Actually, a farm fence would be my favorite style right now because for those cases, when you go out to a job site, you are in the middle of the country. It's beautiful scenery, it's wide open pastures. I get to do a lot of walking. Everybody loves that, right? And it's a lot
Yes.
of work. And at the end of the day, if you get lucky to win it, it's a big job. So I would
Yeah,
say, as of right now, that's my favorite until I make the investment to get my own fence.
there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what areas do you service? What is the service?
So we service all around the greater Richmond area. So New Kent, Mechanicsville, Richmond, Chesterfield, Amelia, Powhatan. But for those cases that are a little farther out there, we are willing to go out there most definitely. We'll try to do a lot more over the phone communicating, maybe even get you some rough estimate pricing there. But at the end of the day, if you're looking like it's a go. I want to rock and roll with this. We're going to come out there and meet with you and give you the same opportunity as we do everyone else, no matter what the drive is. But let's just keep it within the state of Virginia for now.
Now, and then I know you've been down to Williamsburg, correct?
Oh yeah, Williamsburg is a big area that we go in. Our commercial side of things. So our residential is a little bit smaller than our commercial side of things. We do a lot of job for schools, for Maymont, for these big sites that don't get a lot of credit as they should because they're kind of behind the scenes. Where my focus is always on is the residential and growing that and meeting people and homeowners. The biggest thing that I would like to add is we are all about relationships here. Our customers are family. So even at the end of the day, if you're considering a fence, whether it's for you, a family member that maybe you're just helping out, getting estimates together, give us a call. It's not about winning the job. It's about giving you the information to make the decision that's right for you. So, call me. I'll answer any questions at the end of the for free. I'm not going to bill you to answer questions, even if you say, "Hey, I'm thinking using somebody else, but I had a couple questions." I'm going to answer and I'm going to wish you the best of luck. I'm say, "Hey, call me for the next one." Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So what
Yeah.
is your phone number? Give us your phone number.
So our office number is 804-477. You can also shoot us an email at info@rowfenceva.com. And then also you can go on our website, rowfenceva.com, and enter a website submission as well.
All right.
Rowe, ROWE, fence.
ROWE. Yeah, fence, not
That's awesome.
fencing.
Yes.
Fence, ROWE, Rowe, fence,
No fence.
VA.com.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on to our episode of the Williamsburg Address.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, we've
We
really
appreciate
enjoyed it. It's been great information, and I know you've answered so many questions that so many people have. So we really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
All
and
right. Thank
another
you
thing
so
is we
much.
know a lot of people don't even think about these questions until they're
No,
like,
and if
"Oh,
they
maybe we
watch
should
this
look
and
at
they
that."
have any more questions, just scroll to the very end of this. That's where my number is. Actually, a little bit before right now, and give me a call. I'll be there.
Yep.
Sounds
All
good.
right. Thank you
All
so
right. Thank you.
much.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
you.